So, welcome to the session. And the topic for today's session is staying motivated yourself and motivation for your team as well, while we're in a very, very novel situation of working from home. And the reason I designed this session today was because this whole scenario has been very, very overwhelming for a lot of us. There was a time where we used to give examples of some companies who mandate working from home a couple of days a week, and we used to wish that we had a sort of a schedule where we could work from home at least once or twice a week, and flexibility to be able to work from anywhere, not just home, but anywhere like a cafe, somewhere sitting outside or things like that. But now that it has happened, now suddenly we hear so many people complaining about this demotivation that comes along with working from home. And now a lot of people want to go back to work. And we have seen now in UAE, the sort of curfew has been lifted off. If tomorrow is going to be the first working day where it's going to be in effect, and we can already see people planning to go back to work. Some of them are actually really excited, and that's a positive thing, I must say. But there are a lot of things that come along while you're working from home. There's your personal demotivation, then there's the demotivation around your team. Things might be new for your boss, or if you yourself are managing a team, then it might be overwhelming for you on how to manage your team. So we look at all of those things during the session. And the takeaway that I would like you to have by the end of the session is we all know that the world is changing rapidly, and by the end of the COVID-19 crisis, the whole landscape of how we do business, how we interact with each other, how we interact with our customers, how do we work with our colleagues and teammates is going to change drastically. And in order to come out of it successfully and as a winner, rather than going deeper down into demotivation, what is needed is to understand the factors that sort of trigger those demotivations. And we're going to look at all of those now. So we will start off with trying to figure out, why do we lack motivation to work during any such scenario? Just double checking with all of you that you can see me and you can hear me, and you can also see the slides that I'm sharing. If there's any problem, I would want to fix it right now so that we don't have to stop on the way. Perfect. All right. Okay. So the first thing that we want to look at is when we talk about motivation. Let me switch on the pointer here. So when we talk about motivation, okay, there are different types of motivation that we want to talk about today. One is what we call as our internal motivation, intrinsic motivation, and the other is called extrinsic motivation. Uh, we often use the term self-motivated in our resumes, but who can define for me? Why don't you just help me out here, and we can start the interaction phase as well right now. What do you think means by self-motivated? You write it in your CV when you're in an interview, and the interviewer asks you, tell me about yourself. The first thing that most people say is, I'm a self-motivated person. What do you think that means? Let's begin the conversation from there. So how about some answers? Feel free to come on the mic. Just let me know that you want to speak so that there is no clash. No two people are talking at the same time. But I would love to have you on the mic.
This is Faisal. Self-motivated is like a self-starter. You don't need to have the, motivation from the other people. You yourself is motivated to, get the job done. This is as simple for me.
Okay. Mustafa says,
Hi, this is Zohaib. I think where you don't actually get stressed out by the work pressure, or you don't need to get any kind of a push by your manager to, per se. but you do require, you can manage and prioritize your activities, and you can go on your own.
Okay, so basically what we're talking about is starting up on your own, continuing on your own, and not relying on any other factor to push you, right? Mustafa says doesn't need extrinsic factors for motivation. Self-inspiration is enough to kickstart. All right, so yes, basically that's pretty much regarding it. But the problem is the moment we talk about being self-motivated and not relying on other external factors to stay motivated and to keep working, the question comes in: why then we look at promotions? Why do we look at uh, appreciations and a pat on the back? So while there is intrinsic motivation and self-motivation, extrinsic motivation is also critical and also very, very important. They go hand in hand, right? So if we want to talk about demotivation, we'll have to talk about both of these things. So we say right now the situation is we are in a different state of mind, because when we are going to work, our whole environment is different. We have our colleagues with us, we have a whole team with us, we have extrinsic plus intrinsic motivation together. And that's where the problem is right now. When we're working from home, we do not have a lot of extrinsic motivation, so we'll have to rely a lot more on our intrinsic motivation. So when we talk about motivation, extrinsic and intrinsic definition, so extrinsic motivation, which is coming out from the external factors, is mostly related to rewards or a punishment. So we use the commonly used terms of carrot and stick. That's basically what extrinsic motivation is. So when you're at work, you have people around you, you have people watching you, monitoring you. Your boss is asking you. There are deadlines hovering over you. There are people relying on your work to finish before they can start their part of the work in a project. That's all coming out as an extrinsic motivation for you to continue working. Whereas the self motivation part is mostly related to your personal gratification, personal feeling of success, your innate desire of problem solving and learning. Everybody has that. Everybody wants to learn something new, and that's what drives you, right? So when we talk about these two types of motivation, we will go through each one of them and we will see how we can manipulate both of them in this current scenario of people working from home. We will also have I have a section specifically for managers and team leaders who manage teams. This does not mean that that section does not apply to people who are part of the team and not on the slightly higher hierarchy of managing teams. You can, of course, utilize that to work with your peers as well of your same horizontal hierarchy, right? So first we'll talk about all of these scenarios of two types of demotivation that we are facing right now. One is demotivation and at work, so work related, and there's another demotivation which is caused by the crisis that we are all in. So generally speaking, when we talk about demotivation of work, we know that there are fewer rewards. Why are there fewer rewards? Because right now we know the global economic situation, and we're already given messages, not to expect a lot of increments, promotions, appreciations. So there's fewer rewards, and you don't have a lot of training sessions going on. You don't have a lot of chances of promote going on to the next level. So a lot of people think, why the hell should I work hard? Why the hell should I even put in time and effort? So that's one reason of being demotivated. Second is you don't have your team around you. You don't have that pressure of competing within the teams, right? Sometimes being watched and being pushed towards a deadline is a good thing, because there will always be people in a team or in a department who would need some kind of help, some kind of assistance, or maybe some kind of a push to be able to work. But there were people who were working from home even before this pandemic situation. Those people used to get some kind of a feeler of working in an environment. They used to go out and work in cafes. They used to go and work out in co-working spaces just to get that feeling of being around people, just to get out of the routine environment of your home, change dress up as you go for work, sit down somewhere and have people around you, and you have that feeling just to trick your brain into being around people who are busy doing something. But now, what do? I mean, if you have nothing to do, you would just go and, maybe randomly starting to clean up or rearrange your furniture, or, just random things like that. That's because the work related demotivation is setting in. Then, of course, the micromanagement part is related to your to a lot of bosses who are struggling with this situation. This is the first time that most of us are dealing with these situations, and uh, team leaders, bosses, managers, senior managers have a big challenge at their hand, and they are facing a big challenge in managing their teams remotely. Everybody is not in a, you can't call everybody into a meeting just like you do into in a normal work environment. Given that there are options available, video conferencing software is available, but again, it is a hassle to get everybody aligned in and joined in at the same time. So that overwhelms the team leaders and managers a lot as well. Now, when we talk about self-motivation, this is kind of demotivation that we are facing because of these crises. First thing that I like to call is identity crisis. Every one of us have some identity by which we place ourselves in the society, in our hierarchy, in our whole organizational chart, you might say, and that's how we say we like to position ourselves as being an important part of a team or an important part of an organization. I'll give you a simple example. If somebody, let's take a classic example of our salespeople who are in a habit of going to their offices, getting their leads, going and meeting customers, and then the kick that they get from closing those deals is what drives them. But now, while they're sitting at home, who are they now actually? The first thing that they think right now is, am I even worth anything to the organization? Or forget organization, am I doing what I want to do on a daily basis? No, because I want to be out there. I want to be meeting people. All right. So that's what is called an identity crisis when you're going through this situation. Anxiety is a big problem these days. We are worried about ourselves, health of our loved ones, people around us. We have a lot of financial worries, financial crisis. So a lot of people are already in a lot of financial crisis, and a lot of people, and we all know that post COVID-19, the economic system does not look very promising. It's going to be a fresh start for everybody. So while we're worried about our jobs and our financial needs at this point in time, the another type of anxiety is also setting in, which is what's going to happen post COVID-19. That all leads into frustration, demotivation, and depression. There's a lack of job security and stagnation, like we discussed a little while ago, because well, if you are in trouble, think of it this way. If a person is in trouble and has been called in a meeting by his manager and says, your performance is below par, you need to up your game, otherwise it's going to be difficult. So what does that person do? They'll put in more and more effort, as much as effort as possible, just to show that they are important enough to be in the job. But at some point in time, if they lose hope completely, then it's a human nature to just give up, just not try at all. Right now, the situation is, I mean, the people are looking at situation in a very, very hopeless scenario in terms of job security. Uh, it might be, a lot of people are also thinking that I might be giving in my 100%, but because overall the economy is bad and my industry is poorly affected and my company is on the brink of going bust, it does not matter how much hard work I put in. At the end of the day, I'm at the mercy of the economic system, and basically, it can be over for me at any point in time. So that's also another very, very important part of the demotivation. So I just want to spend. I want to urge you just to take a screenshot or just note down these some points, because this is where we need to counter. This is where we need to start off in trying to negate these demotivations. So what do you do when there's fewer rewards? What do you do when there's identity crisis, right? So just have a note of these things, and then let's move on until we come to how to counter all of this. So what happened? One second. Hmm. Okay. Yeah. Okay. One more point before we move on was distractions. We have talked about it. You get distracted easily at home because you're busy at a lot of activities at home as well. So we need to figure out how to keep yourself motivated through all of this. So now we're going to counter all of these things that we have just discussed. So first of all, we know that it's a new scenario for everybody. It's not just us, it's our peers as well, it's our bosses as well, it's our companies as well. Everybody's going through a phase. So don't push yourself too hard. Don't judge yourself too much, I would say. Be kind and understand that while you are working at home, other people are also working at home. They are also going through the same challenges of managing, for example, your children, your spouse, your project deadlines, and all of those things. So just like you, other people are also suffering this through the same scenario. We all need to stay communicated and kind to ourselves to be able to come out of this. Very, very important point, in my opinion, is to limit yourself to how the news is portraying the current scenario. I'm not saying that not pay enough attention to it. It is a very important. It is very important to look out for your loved ones, for yourself, to know what is happening around the world. How badly is it impacting the economy, the cultures, the environments around the world? However, if you're in a habit of consuming these numbers and these news at all time throughout the day, checking these news again and again, the only thing that's going to happen is that you're going to get deeper and deeper into the anxiety that we just talked about. Routine. Okay, now this is something that I talked about in my previous session as well. For those of you who were there, they would know. Otherwise, I would invite you to watch the recording of the last session. It's available on my website and on my YouTube channel. Routine is extremely important because when you don't have a routine, you don't have your intrinsic motivation also starts to diminish. One day, you might think that I will wake up early in the morning on time when I usually wake up for office, or you know, minus the travel time from that, at least at the time that I'm supposed to be in the office, I will switch on my laptop and I will log into my office network. The next day, you might think, oh, let me sleep in half an hour more, or who's gonna know if I log in half an hour later? A lot of companies have some tools to monitor online presence, and then we that also sometimes counts as a demotivator thing, that thinking that why is my boss micromanaging everything? So I would say the best way to negate that demotivation is to build a routine around your day. And like I discussed in my last session, have a list of things that you have to achieve from your office perspective as well as your personal perspective, and follow those to the T. If you are in a routine, if you are able to manage and maintain that routine. I remember last time some of the past participants had commented on this point, saying that they are still managing the same timelines and same routine till today, which includes waking up at the same time, doing your morning prayers or activity or exercise, and then getting ready for breakfast and work and all of those things. That the routine remains same. I commend those people because this is how you keep your motivation high. The moment you're in a routine, your mind gets into the practical exercise of getting involved with the work and then starting off effectively. Breaks. Okay, breaks. I think uh, breaks is a very, very it's a personal thing. For me, for example, I like to take activities activity by activity. So I don't take a break until I'm done with an activity. It might take half an hour, it might take 4 hours. I don't care. I can stay focused for a large amount of time if I have, because for me, breaks come in after I finish off an activity. But for everybody, it is different. Last time I had shared a way of keeping your mind in focus by taking breaks. That technique is called a Pomodoro technique of time management. If you can just Google it, or you can go back and see that presentation from last time. But the way to do it is to slice your task into smaller tasks and then take a break every time you finish that smaller chunk of task. It is very, very important that you align your breaks with your milestones of your completing the tasks. Because if you uh, take too many breaks between tasks, you're going to lose focus and you're going to go back a step when you come back, and you will not be able to complete the task on time. Given the scenario that we are all in, that does not undermine the fact that we all have our deadlines, project deadlines, and a lot of times that becomes a lot of micromanagement reason from our bosses. Bosses like to keep on asking why is, what is happening, why is the project on time or not. So give yourself breaks, but I would say stick to a proper time management strategy while giving yourself breaks. You'll need to figure out your personal motivators. Now I'm gonna come back and I want some interaction now. I've been talking for quite some time, and I want to know from you guys, what is your personal motivator? So how about we share some examples and then we can continue with the explanations. So who's coming up on the mic first? Mm-hmm.
Hello everyone, this is Mustafa Salim here.
Hi, Mustafa.
Hope you people can hear me.
Yeah, you're a
Uh,
little low, maybe on my side, but I think others have heard.
it might be on my side. Hope it's better now. Uh,
Yeah, I can hear you.
I, I
Let
would
me just
like to
quickly
say
switch on
that,
my
uh,
AC.
yeah, I would like to say that the key is to enjoy feeling. Uh, sorry, should I wait for a while? Success. I would like to say that for a motivation part, the process should be like that. We should keep on doing things and having small, frequent, repeated successes, small tasks that need to be repeated, and through which we may get success. Because the key is to enjoy feeling of success that comes from improving in some small way, and then rinse and repeat over and over again, because the
So yeah,
feeling of success, feeling
so
of
we're going
achieving,
back to
getting your,
the part about routine, talking about having
yeah,
routines. Okay,
yeah,
makes
that
sense.
that gives us motivation, I would say.
All right, so the feeling of achieving something in your task list as a routine will keep you going.
Yes, yes, small successes leads you to bigger successes. Then you need to repeat the things, or you need to benchmark those successes to keep yourself proceeding further.
All right, thank you, Mustafa. How about anyone else?
Hi, this is Umar Khalili. So I kind of take in getting work done well more efficiently. So if I'm able to do it more efficiently over a task than before, I get more motivated on that kind of like to do something in a lesser amount of time than before what I've done or if anyone else is doing.
So for you,
That's
main motivator is improving on your previous productivity
could be
of a
yes.
similar
Yeah.
task.
Yeah.
Okay. I highly recommend that you view my last session. We discussed, this was exactly the topic of improving productivity. we discussed some very important and some necessary tricks and tips that you can incorporate into improving your productivity.
So,
Yeah, Danish, I think we're having some trouble
Yes,
with your mic.
Assalamu alaikum. First of all, happy Ramzan Kareem to everyone. I would like to
Ramadan
share
Kareem.
here the regarding the self motivation or the motivation topic is I believe and I think while achieving your small goals and the your direct like line manager or the senior management who reward you by like small prizes or some like appreciation or kind of these things, I believe the other
Mhm.
staff or myself, or suppose for example my boss appreciated me or rewarded me by some like prize or something like that as per the
Mhm.
office scenario or office structures. So I believe by this thing the staff can easily motivated to achieve the another milestone
Yeah, Danish, that's
by this.
important. But what we're talking about right now is your personal motivators. We're talking about your self motivation, your intrinsic motivation. We
Okay,
will come to the team motivation part in a bit.
sure.
So, you have any tips on how you like to keep yourself motivated?
Again, for the self motivation, I'm totally agree with Salim Sab as he discussed in his own point of view. I agree with him.
All right. Okay. Anyone else would like to say something? Yeah. Mahmood, Muhammad Ali Vora, Irfan, Sayed Faisal, Zohaib. Okay, let me move on then. All right. So, yes, anything that basically helps us to stay focused, anything that motivates us, whether it is our personal productivity comparison from our activities that we were doing at work or similar tasks, or being in a routine. Being in a routine is extremely effective, by the way. And the moment we are in a routine, it automatically acts as an internal motivator to, and that also has a part about achieving a small milestone and then moving on to the next, right? So yes, so we have to find our personal motivators and make them force and kickstart our day and keep us going throughout the day. This is extremely important because you will not be able to stay connected with everybody in your team at all times, right? So one another way to do it is to set yourself deadlines. Sorry, deadlines. Uh, why? Because a lot of these projects are now being pushed on to being longer term. So if you're working on a project at work, and we've seen it in many organizations that a lot of product launches are being pushed out to once the issue is resolved, once we are through this COVID-19 crisis, and a lot of other uh, office-related stuff is being postponed till we can go back in our office environment and connect physically. But how do you still, so if you don't have short-term projects to work on, how do you keep yourself motivated through long-term projects? The most important part is to break down those projects into smaller chunks and then chase those chunks to keep yourself occupied and to keep yourself motivated by achieving those milestones. Okay, let me just quickly read on some of the chat messages. Mustafa says, if you can do one thing well, you can do lots of things well. You realize that you have to do is find the right process, work the process, and enjoy the feeling of success. Yes, thank you very much. And the resulting motivation you get from constant improvement. Great, great, great piece of advice. Zohaib says, self-learning and focusing on things you couldn't find time to learn. Yes, this is an extremely important part, and thank you for sharing this, Zohaib. Is that now is the time to up our game. Now is the time to basically, because we have apparently now have a lot of time, and the unfortunate situation is that most of the people are not using this time effectively, and we are wasting it away in unnecessary things or getting busy in unnecessary chores or just procrastinating around the house. But now is the time to actually get involved in something that you wanted to do or wanted to learn a new skill, new language, new up your skill in the same field that you're working in, or explore new areas. Now is that time. That will also keep yourself motivated. There is a very important part of staying motivated, which involves when, if I go back quickly, I'll have to scroll a little bit back. Let me try. Okay. Yeah. So when we are talking about personal gratification and learning as one of the core intrinsic motivations, the important part comes here. Why do we learn? We learn because this is how we measure our success. This is how we feel gratified on a personal level. So very rapidly put Zohaib. So let me go back to where we were. Okay. Okay. Now, all of us will need to, I think this is a very, very important part here, because I was just talking to another friend of mine the other day, and he pointed out that he doesn't like to use the term social distancing, which is interesting because this is the definition of staying at home that is being used, social distancing and avoiding contact and all. But if you look at yourself, we are more active socially now than we were before. So it's not social distancing, it's more like physical distancing. Socially speaking, we are more active, we are more recipient, we are more engaging towards other people. So find that other person related to your work. It could be a colleague, or it could be somebody who just likes to listen to you, or it could be a spouse, your friend, who just wants to listen to you and is okay with you dumping in even irrelevant stuff just as a good listener, because that will help you unwind from all of the frustrations and all of the challenges that you're going through while dealing with these tough times. So you need to stay in touch with at least one such person where you can download all your information. If you're talking about your office environment, preferably somebody from your office, some close colleague or a friend that you've made at work. Have a little chat, discussion, phone call in the evenings. Just relax, chill out, talk about a little bit about work, but more about the personal challenges that each of you are going through in terms of dealing with the work environment. And other than that, and at least one other person who is just a good listener, probably a friend or a spouse, that you could just discuss and dump everything out and clear your head. That's how you stay motivated. We come to the point which Zohaib had somewhat already highlighted, because now is the time to figure out who you are and enhance those skills. We talk about time. We have a lot of time, use that. But in other than that also, if we all see those examples and memes online that people are working from home, literally dressed in their PJs, and there's nothing wrong in it as long as you're able to get the work done. And sometimes when you need to attend a formal meeting, of course, you have to put on your office gear, and that's fine. But other than that, when I talk about personal motivation, I want to tell everybody to try and force yourself to get out of the procrastination rut and figure out one thing new that you want to learn till the time that we are stuck at homes. You see so many examples online, so many celebrities doing collaborations, so many people finding out what they wanted to know, learning more about that skill, and then utilizing that skill. So please go ahead, do that. Write down what you want to learn in the next, let's say, 15 days. Put some time to it and start exploring your personal goals. So basically, look at the different types of motivations that you have and then work on them. Now we come to the team motivation part. Now this is very important, not just for people who are managing teams, but also people who are working in teams, because it goes hand in hand. However, a lot of my content is also related to the people who are managing team at this point in time, because they are going through a lot of overwhelming scenarios. So the problem that we have right now is that most of our work is tactical work, and that's what our bosses also like to focus on, right? So we are basically still trying to achieve the same number of goals, same amount of goals as we were at work. So we call this as service levels. So we are trying to achieve the same service levels as if we are working in under regular circumstances. Now, the problem with this is that while everybody is locked at home, while everybody is trying to make the best of the situation, you don't have all of the resources available at home. I recently spoke to one of the retailers here for a warranty claim that I had for my television, and they were like, we will get it sorted. And they gave me the timeline, which was a regular timeline, but it's been 2 weeks since that timeline has passed. And when I called again, somebody said, sir, we are struggling because we are all working from home. We're taking your calls from home, and it is difficult to align people to visit your place and things like that. The problem is the management does not want to understand. That's where the problem lies. They will still look at the right number of tickets to be resolved, the projects being on time, and rather than looking at the bigger picture, what is the bigger picture actually? The bigger picture is how are you connecting with your customers? What are your customers facing right now? How do you solve problems of your customers? At the end of the day, the purpose of any business is actually to solve customers' problems. The customers' problems have changed. The customers understand that just like themselves, the companies are also going through tough times. The service levels are going to get impacted. However, they're not being communicated like that. So at the end of the day, you want to be more transparent with your customers. If you want your customers to be satisfied and serve them through this situation, you will need to have them on board and have them understand the problem that they're also going through. This is the key to surviving this situation. Because honestly speaking, if I as a business commit and communicate to my customers that my service levels are not going to get impacted, guess what will happen when it actually does? And it will get impacted. My customers are going to start complaining. And then it's going to get overwhelming because they're going to come back and say, you promised this pandemic situation is not going to affect the way we are working. And now you're suddenly going back on your words. So we will lose the integrity as well, right? So when we are talking about team management, remote productivity, let me tell you, has a positive and negative both sides to it. And the success of managing a team and working in a team will depend on how we use the remote productivity and how we use the remote working environment. Okay, so when we go to the part about team-wise performance, I have three demotivators and three motivators that I want to discuss here. Okay, the first thing is we'll look at the big three demotivators. Now we have emotional pressure. Now I'm talking about as a team. So we'll realign ourselves to working either in teams or managing teams if we are managing teams ourselves. So we have emotional pressures, economic pressures, and the inertia for work. What does emotional pressure and economic pressure mean? Now, the employees that are working in your team, they are going through, like we had seen in the earlier slides, that they are going through an anxiety of trying to figure out how to make the best of this financial crisis. They are going through a lot of emotional as well as financial problems because it might be the scenario where their salaries have been reduced, yet they still have to pay their rents, they have to pay their school fees, they have to pay their loans, they have to pay their credit cards. All of those things are there. On top of that, they are also worried about their health, the health of the people around them. They are also worried about how rapidly this thing is growing and still not coming down. So how long will it be before they come back in the normalcy of their salary, of their work environment, of their regular motivation for work? The boss, it is a responsibility of the leader, of the team leader, to understand that the employees are going through these problems, and then tell them that, be transparent first of all, and tell them that everybody is going through this situation, the whole organization is going through this situation, right? So just do a little bit of hand holding. We'll come to some techniques. I have built a schedule from my side what managers and team leaders can follow in managing their team effectively through this demotivation phase. But again, that's a guideline. But it is very important that managers understand these pressures. Then there's inertia for work. What is inertia for work? Basically, like we had said, when you are in an office environment, there's a routine that you follow. Right from the time that you wake up in the morning, you get dressed, you get in your car, you go, you drive to work. You know, irrespective of where you're living, there are certain routines and steps that you follow. You get into work, you open your mailbox, you open your projects, things like that. You open your system, and then you have a morning ritual, morning routine of greeting your colleagues, and then that whole set that sets the pace. That's like a machinery that sets into motion your motivation, and you start to work along with your peers. That inertia, that's called the inertia for work. That inertia for work is completely missing at this point in time. There is no way for people to know what time and how effectively is my team member logging in and working. I might just log in for the sake of attendance and then head out and just not come back to my desk or to tend to my office work for another couple of hours. As long as I'm logged in, my boss might be thinking that I'm working, I'm ready to go. And the bosses would think, okay, so everything is going fine, everything is going according to plan, everything is according to schedule. We don't need to alter our pace at all. We don't need to alter our communication with the customer at all. So as a boss, you need to understand, if you're managing a team, please understand that the inertia of work is either diminished or completely gone in these circumstances. You need to understand that rather than looking at those elements, it is better to look at individual productivity in terms of the final numbers that is required. So, so if there is a deadline of a project and that project is divided into tasks for different people, rather than looking at it from the bigger picture, look at it, handhold people on a one-to-one basis and ask them what is their challenge in meeting that deadline, right? Then there are three motivators which play a very, very important role in boosting your performance. So any idea, anybody who can just look at these three terms, play, purpose, and potential, just by your mind, how would you define them? I would appreciate some examples. Just randomly, what do you think play means, purpose means, potential as three motivators while working in a team?
So is play something to do with a team player kind of a thing? I don't know. I mean, I have no idea.
Yes, something close to that. Yeah, you're on the right track.
Some team player kind of a thing.
Okay, why do you think it's an important motivator?
Because I think probably everyone will have to work together to come out of this situation and probably
Mhm.
understand the purpose. I'm just guessing, okay? I might be completely wrong. Understand the purpose of the job, of the task, how it is going to affect the the final goal.
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, I could be probably completely wrong. I don't know. Just
Fine, no
that
problem. No. What about
comes to my mind.
purpose? What about purpose and
Purpose.
potential?
Purpose, I told you. Be a team. Play is a team player. Everyone works together. Purpose is to understand what is the purpose of the task that the whole team is working at. What are we going to
Right,
achieve? Look at the big picture.
right.
That's what comes to my mind when I just see the word purpose. And in motivation, work context, that's what comes to my mind.
Mhm. Okay.
Hi,
Potential,
Zohaib here.
yeah.
Sorry. Potential for me is realizing the actual capability and uh, the if I may the actual I'm trying to find a replacement for potential though.
Hmm.
The capability. Yeah, if
Okay.
that fits in correctly. to realize the capability of the team to take it to the next level is probably what potential would refer to in this scenario. That's what I can make.
Okay, right. Okay, thank you very much. Mustafa, you had some points. Do you want to come on the mic and say them?
Uh, Basically, I have written over there to play is to mean to keep the task as targets before us to be achieved
Uh-huh.
collectively, and to keep it on a lighter note, to
Mhm,
perform tasks as if it we are in a sort of a game,
okay.
and in a purpose to achieve something. Then
Mhm,
purpose is deemed to be a target, which is the ultimate goal to be achieved. So it should be made it clear, as you
okay.
were saying earlier, that if there is a crisis, then it is deemed to be for everyone. It has to be
Right.
faced by everyone. So without, getting derailed from that fear, we need
Mhm,
to keep our focus on that very much purpose. And the purpose is
mhm,
ultimately to keep the team aligned, motivated towards the ultimate
mhm,
goal. And potential is obviously our skills, our abilities, which we can use in collaboration. We can, as a team leader, the team leader should be able to collaborate the whole team, because there are some skills which some people have, and there are other people who have got some other kind of skills, and basically a team leader have to utilize those skills, because one
mhm.
skills complement the skills of the other resource, and by utilizing all these resources, potential can be unleashed and utilized as well.
Okay, great. All right. So very rightly put by everybody. I'll just summarize this very quickly in a single scenario. So when we're talking about working in a team, let's place ourselves in a team and working on a project. So when you have a team environment, what is your one of the key motivating factors while working in a team is to be able to solve problems together. So the play, when we talk about play, the play part comes in where we are collaborating with our teams, the part where we are working together to solve problems. Uh, it could be something as mundane as people who work in sales, but then at the same times, people who do work in sales cannot. There is no way that they can work alone in isolation. It No matter what role you are in, no matter what kind of job you're in, you can't do anything alone. So you need to be around your colleagues who have a similar goal set as you, and then you share together and then you help each other. So that's the play part. So you are supposed to, the play part will boost performance, because you are helping out each other, you are working in cohesion with each other, and you are developing each other as you go, and as you go along. The purpose part is basically the bigger picture of your team and your organization. So at the end of the day, the purpose of an organization is to be able to serve your customers and to solve their problems. And when it comes down to your team, what are you looking at as an impact from your team? It could be a partial milestone in a big project, but that project might not be able to move ahead until and unless you and your team complete that part. So your impact is a big impact on the entire project. So that's the purpose. Now, the purpose drives us to work. The purpose drives us. You will see that people like to take ownership of small tasks within a project, and then they would, under normal circumstances, we have seen that they would sit in late or work on weekends just to make sure that they are able to complete their task within the deadline. That's because they are being motivated by the purpose, the bigger picture of the team and the organization. And then the potential part is, what do you get out of this as an individual by working in a team and uh, putting an impact into the overall purpose of the organization and of your team? What do you get out of it? You have the potential of meeting seniors, your superiors, your bosses will give you a pat on the back or give you criticism on how to improve. That you In that way, you have a potential to achieve success, and it's not always related to a salary increment or a great jump, but your learning itself, your self gratification, your personal motivation gets high. So when we're talking about playing in a team, these three motivators are what play the most important part as a team as well as in an individual. So why am I talking about these in terms of team manager? Because the team managers need to understand that all three of these are somewhat compromised while their employees are working from home. They are not working together, so the play part is declining because they are not in contact with each other. In an office situation, you can get into a meeting room with 10 of your colleagues and discuss a possible solution to a problem. That's not very practically possible while you're not working physically close to each other. The purpose, again, like we had discussed earlier, the purpose is we don't know what is happening to the entire project. So we are unaware of even if I achieve something within the deadlines and timelines, is it really worth anything at all? And then the potential is where my employee, my team member would think, uh, even if I do this, what am I getting? Because I'm not getting instant feedback. I'm not getting that bounce back from my peers or from my boss. So the boss has to understand that the people are going through these troubles at this point in time. They need to figure out how to build play into the work from home environment, and that's what we're going to come to next. So what can we do as business leaders? What can we do as team managers? So first of all, we have to resist the temptation to be 100% tactical. Some some markers and some milestones will have to be met no matter what, yes, but at the same time, you will have to look at how this is impacting the overall environment and the community around you, and then build motivation around your staff. I'll give you some common examples. We see viral videos where there are fitness instructors who are teaching fitness exercises on the balconies, and the people around them in communities and on the rooftops, they are following them. People are streaming some of their courses online for free, right? So why are they doing it? Because those business leaders, those like just like fitness instructors, they're leaders. They are the people who are usually in control in a physical world. But now what are they doing? They're finding that purpose of play, of collaborating with people who are streaming their content for free. They are trying to find out ways to interact with people and create that cohesion between their audience or their team. So basically speaking, the business leaders should try to do similar things with their staff. Uh, this will be over and above your tactical deadlines and timelines. You can have virtual meetings, but at the same time, don't always talk about tactical work. Ask your employees, hey, how are you holding up? Is there anything else that you can share now? Now is the time to start to recognize and discover the potentials of your staff. I would take this as a great opportunity to get to know your employees other than your office environment and work role, and maybe you will find out that some of your staff is extremely good in some other tasks that can be useful in the organization. And later on, that will play an important role in deciding the potential and the growth of that employee. So that's also very, very important. Then we have to figure out how to engage our staff with their works. How do we do it? Basically, normally we see we are given a set of instructions and the employees are expected to follow those instructions to the T. No questions asked, no innovations appreciated, and no discussions on alternate solutions. Just follow these tasks so we can complete the task on time, we can meet our deadlines and move on to the next thing. Now is the time to encourage the engagement of employees with their overall work goals. Ask them to discover or ask them to share alternate solutions to those problems. The problems themselves are changing, and maybe your employees who are more closer to the ground or more closer to the actual customer problems will be able to give you better solutions to resolve a problem, or tell you another different kind of problems that they think your customers would be facing that you might not even see. So encourage that. Finding creative ways of problems solving. Well, again, I think a lot of this has to do with the way our teams are designed on a generic level. So our bosses, or we as bosses, we know the potential of each and every employee of ours. We assign the jobs and the tasks related to that particular skill set, and that's it. And that poses a challenge if a staff member wants to grow in their career. How do they go out of their skill set and prove that they're worth more than that? So now is the time to experiment and finding ways to align different colleagues with different skill sets and figure out that they might be better in something else as well. Zoeb says process reengineering and simplifying tasks to perform them better when we go full swing later. Exactly. So when you find creative ways of problem solving, you can take that to the next level when we go back to normalcy. And while you are in this situation, then you might be able to discover new problems and new solutions to those problems. Collaborating across teams and vendors and suppliers. I have seen a lot of people complain about not being able to engage effectively with their suppliers, with their customers, with their vendors. A lot of people who provide lot of vendors who provide B2B solutions are also complaining that they're not able to cohesively now meet and engage with their customers, clients, and that is impacting their business in terms of approvals, of projects, and other supplies and all. This is also important that now we engage with the whole supply chain, not on a extremely high level, not on the CEO or the CFO or the CTO level, but go down the ladder as much as you can. Engage your staff to collaborate or to connect with your suppliers to develop a more cohesive personal relationship. Take this a little step further than your professional engagement, because at this point in time, when people do connect with each other, they're more on a personal level than on a professional level. You're sitting at home, your mindset is more towards you're relaxed, not in that uptight kind of work environment, and that shows in the way that you speak to people, that shows in the way that you're building relationships. So that's another important thing to do for the managers. Now here I have some examples, uh, and I will come to a schedule that I have created as well. Some people might find it effective, or you can just customize them according to you. But before we get into that, so specifically for uh, team managers to effectively manage their teams working from home, you have to connect with them on a one-to-one level and show them that you understand that they're being demotivated and you care about their motivation, instead of just connecting and asking, hey, what happened about the task that we were given? There are multiple tools and services being developed as a result of this scenario that help you to measure motivation. There are questionnaire-based survey tools which you can send your employees to team on a weekly basis, figure out where their motivation level is going, find out how to improve that, ask their suggestions in the first place, and then see what out of those suggestions what you can implement. Uh, then there's tactical and adaptive performance. So tactical performance is basically something that is non-negotiable. You need to execute certain tasks, you need to meet certain service levels. So of course you will need to figure out how much you need to follow all of that. What is the level of compromise that you can have with your suppliers and your customers on those tactical goals to be able to adjust for the work from home environment. But other than that, there is something called adaptive performance, where there is no plan to follow, but you just experiment on different methods of solving problems. So focus on adaptive performance as well. Generally we don't see this in our day-to-day work environment when we're working from our offices. Adaptive performance is very difficult for staff to exhibit and to be recognized for. Now is the time for managers to reach out and ask for the solutions and situations. Okay, let's get on to the motivated work week for leaders. This is where when I told you I have created a sample schedule for managers that they can follow. Yeah, people who are working in teams can do this with their peers as well if their bosses are not easily accessible, or if the boss is not following something like this. You can feel free to customize it. This is just an idea that I came up with based on my research for the session. But feel free to customize it. You can take a screenshot of this if you want. I can send this over separately on email as well. So the days of the week that I put in here are international working days. In UAE, we do follow slightly different working days, so we'll adjust that. So Monday is basically the first working day of the week, which would be Sunday for UAE and the Middle East. But the first day of the week, yeah, it's best to have a performance cycle meeting with your entire team on board in a conference, video conference, and figure out what impact and what did we do in the previous week. So it's a recap of what we did in the previous week. What commitments do we have on for this week, and assign uh, responsibilities to each and every staff member, who will do what role, who will complete what task, etc., like that. Uh, also figure out how can we help each other with this week's commitments. And when we then we go back to the adaptive performance part, you identify where areas where you can implement adaptive performance management, and you see where you can experiment to improve performances this week. What kind of experiments will you run? Will it be related to communicating with the customers or suppliers or vendors, or will it be related to improving your process flows, or will it be related to managing your office resources? So the kind of experiments that you want to run this week, and assign small, doable, manageable tasks to each and every staff of a member of your team. So that's how you're also managing the adaptive performance part along with your tactical part. So if you look at the bullet points, you will see that we have the first 2 points are purely your tactical task. What was supposed to be done, what have we done, and what are we supposed to do this week? And then we come towards helping each other, and then the last 2 points are purely uh, adaptive performance based. Then next whole week is, now I've written it Tuesday to Thursday, but it could be Monday to Wednesday for Middle East. You should have at least one individual meeting with each of your team members. Okay, to you have to focus on helping them to tackle challenges that are a little bit difficult for them. They could be difficult because of the challenging situation of working from home, not being accessible to all the office resources, or not being able to communicate effectively with your peers. There are different types. Just help them out with that. Or you can make sub teams out of if you have a large team, make small sub teams, and then ask the staff to collaborate amongst each other, and then tackle problems together. Then comes the last working day of the week, which is Friday or Thursday, depending on the region. Then this is where you focus on reflection, and this is where you focus and you gather input on the experiments of the week. And this is when you can actually ask people to present how much of the milestones have they achieved throughout the week, and how have they helped each other. So now again, align the tactical as well as adaptive performance. Ask people what they have achieved throughout the week, what was the challenging part, and also how they have helped their colleagues to achieve their progress. How have they motivated each other, right? So, and the learnings that you have from this week in terms of the struggles that the people faced in their motivation and in their uh, management of the resources or the deadlines is what you take to the next week to set goals for the next week. All right, any comments or any questions till this part? Right. So, yes, these are difficult times. We will get through them. The important part is to remember that even when this passes, we should have clear identity of our teams. We should not lose contact of our colleagues. We should not lose the relationships of our colleagues. And most importantly, the team managers should not lose sight of the potential of their staff members. So don't lose connection. Don't come out of this as a team at a personal level where you're further away from your colleague than you were before going into this situation. So this time shall pass, but more importantly, we have to last as a tough team. We have to last together throughout this scenario. Right. So before we just close out for the day, this was a shorter session. Uh, I have other programs as well. I'm just going to leave this my contact details and my social media profiles on the screen. I'll be happy to connect with anyone who wants to discuss anything related to their team management, their motivation, time management, all of those things. The recording for this session will be available on YouTube and on my website. Feel free to forward it to your colleagues, your friends, and I would love to connect with anyone who would like to discuss anything further. I would also appreciate if you guys can just maybe take 10 seconds and suggest what do you think is the best topic to train on or discuss in the next week. Hopefully, I'm trying to have these sessions um, on a weekly basis as much as I can. So I would like to know your suggestions on what would you like me to train on next, so that the content that I create has the most amount of value for everybody. Leadership style, Danish, could you just clarify that a little bit more? What do you mean by leadership style? Is it related to the current crisis that we are all going through, or a generic session? I mean, it doesn't have to be related to the current crisis, but I thought most relevant, since we are all struggling with these problems these days, it would be best to focus on the crisis. Right? Would you like to clarify what do you mean by leadership style, Danish? All right. Anyone else? If not here, feel free to email me. It's hello@faroukhahmed.com, and I hope to see you again next week. And I would appreciate if you could forward all my contacts and my content to others and engage them into joining the sessions next week as well. Thank you very much, and goodbye.